Welcome to R Mochi Podcast, the only podcast rated R for Robin. Today, my guest is Myra Tumlos of Mochi. She is the community manager. I think you've helped with a lot of like batch onboarding stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
New batch stuff, new batch orientation,
Say hi.
batch guide stuff. Hi, I'm Myra, as you said. Cheers. Oof.
The first thing I said was don't
Not
spill
spill.
any.
I got nervous.
God damn it.
Pause it.
No, it's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It's on the floor.
This is the first podcast. It's in person. My guest is already spilled on the set. How do you like Ukraine?
I love Ukraine. Oh, we're in Lviv. Ukraine, both of us.
Mhm.
He is not in America. We're in.
Yeah. And you just got back from Poland.
Yep.
And you're leaving tomorrow to go back to the States.
Yes, I've been on this side of the world for 2 weeks now.
How was your first trek into Eastern Europe? Is this your first trek?
I don't think that Polish people would consider Poland as Eastern Europe, but yes, Ukraine, if it is Eastern Europe, then it is my first time.
Just so you know, you don't need to sound like we're in an interview.
Okay.
It's
I'm
kind of like
just
an
nervous
interview.
because I
It's fine.
Once you're done, I'm gonna drop it on the floor so I can wipe the floor.
Yeah. So you've been with Mochi since batch 1.
Yes.
Were you not batch 0 technically?
No, I was a member of batch 1. You were batch 0, right?
Yeah. So were you? So you're community manager. You used to kind of just be an assistant, intern.
Yes. Well, it kind of, it really kind of started after batch 1 when, like, I just started giving random feedback.
Because I thought you were helping out before I joined in like in a working capacity.
No, I believe that you were before me because it was when I came back from New Zealand right before COVID closed everything down. That I think you were already working with Mochi, and then I came back and I was like, help! I need
Why were
to
you
do something.
So you went to New Zealand. What year? 2015.
Last year, 2020.
You what?
2020. This is why it's good we do things like this.
Yeah, the last few years have been. Though I would say 2021 has been like a much nicer like slowdown in like.
Slow down, it's literally July. It's August.
No, but like I mean, by this time last year,
Yeah.
there were murder hornets. I think we dropped another bomb on Iran.
Yeah.
COVID just got into like full swing. Australia was on fire.
Yeah. Australia was on fire like right before I went to New Zealand, actually. That was because I was going to go to Australia.
Yeah, Australia was on fire for like a long
time. Unfortunately. I just laughed. But
there were like a million things that happened by this time last year.
that's true.
And I would say I don't know how much you follow the news, but like I stopped looking at news since Biden like got officially like sworn in.
Yes.
I did not look at all at I used to follow like,
Well,
TRTs.
I mean, there were a ton of like social, occurrences with shootings and like all of that still like right after Biden. So I think like because of social media, not like real televised media, that I didn't follow that as much, but then I followed social media. So people obviously would argue that that's really dangerous. But this is the world now.
What was like the biggest shooting of this past year?
This past year?
Or I guess like
You mean aside from like George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, that really kind of obviously didn't kick it off because it's been happening for years and years. But I think that was the first one that like I saw all the time everywhere for like weeks, and so it really.
Was this a guy who was shot at like the Wendy's or something in the back?
He was outside of a convenience store, I believe, and he was being arrested for counterfeiting a $20 bill, and then he was the one who the officer kneeled on his neck, ultimately.
No, that's George Floyd.
We need to take that out. What did I say?
I don't know. Well, no.
I meant George Floyd. What did
Okay,
I say?
so I thought you were talking about like Ann Arbor.
Oh, Ahmaud Arbery was the one who, yes, well, he was running in a neighborhood.
You can be wrong.
I know, but I don't want to be wrong. That's so embarrassing.
You started literally the podcast by
That
spilling.
particularly though is an extremely embarrassing thing to be.
So like, here's the thing: just because I've been out of the States, I haven't been like amidst the protests, and because I've stopped watching news on the internet, I'm really out of touch with kind of like what's been going on in the States with a lot of things. I've been rewatching a bunch of South Park.
That is a pretty good.
It's not a great update. They have. I don't think they've put out. They've announced the most recent season, and they put out like a few episodes, like the COVID special and the vaccine special or something.
Yeah. Do you watch any like late night shows, like Jimmy Kimmel?
I used to watch the Colbert one.
Oh,
But I've stopped
that
watching
one's the
them
late one. That one's the late one, I think.
Isn't it just called The Late Show with Stephen Colbert?
They're all late. I don't know. I haven't seen actually any of them.
I think the only other like news thing I kind of watch, I still watch the what is it, John Oliver?
Oh yes.
Tonight with John Oliver.
Yes. Well, I watch them on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch them live. Does anyone watch anything live?
Old people.
Yeah. I think so. But I realized recently though, like in hotels and hostels, that like live TV with commercials is actually pretty like
Entertaining.
yeah, entertaining and like relieving from like normal where we just like look for everything all the time that
It's
we
like,
want exactly what we want to watch
Where's
all
the
the time.
5-second skip ad button?
Yes. Or something that we don't want to watch in like a specific movie, I like will skip it. It's kind of blasphemous.
What movies have you been watching as of late?
Wow. I'm thinking on like really dumb, like comforting ones from like COVID where I watched Harry Potter, like the entire series every day, basically. But there are a lot of movies out now in theaters that I have been wanting to watch.
What's your favorite Harry Potter movie?
I think Half-Blood Prince.
Really?
I think that was a little too quick to answer. But I also recently read them for the first time. Have you ever read them?
I tried reading the first one and never got past the first chapter.
It's like fine.
Oh, all these guys in weird cloaks and
Yes.
like some owls.
Yes.
It starts out from the perspective of like the uncle, right?
Yes.
I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
This isn't-
and he starts to notice everyone dressed weird, which you're like, how do those worlds ever not? You know, they're like, well, we don't want muggles to know, but it's like you literally walk around in daylight in hats that are like wizard hats. So how would you not know?
and it's the UK,
Yeah.
which is also absolutely tiny.
Yeah. And there's like all these weird catastrophes that are happening, you know, like in nature because of magic.
I don't think I got that far. So,
Yeah. Well, that's later on, but it's in movies.
have you ever taken like the test? What house you're in?
Yes.
What are you in?
I'm a Gryffindor. Yeah. Not really sure exactly what that means.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been watching a lot of TikToks with all of the Harry Potter stuff. You know?
I love all the memes about like Hufflepuff.
Yes.
I'm a Hufflepuff.
Well, they're loyal. I'm like saying like I know, but
there's just like a lot of like so there I know just the lore stuff that I've read about them. I again haven't read any books, but like their house is like right next to the kitchen. They're kind of like everybody from who like they didn't fit into the other houses. We're all just gonna be chill in this house. They've never had an evil wizard, and like I think it just seems like the chill house.
yeah.
Which is also strange because their symbol animal is a honey badger, which is one of the least chill animal next to like hornets.
Yeah. Have you seen the video? I don't know if it's Snoop Dogg, but it's like honey badger don't care, honey badger don't give a shit. You know what I'm talking about? And it's like honey badger like biting a snake, and the snake's like just trying to attack it, but the honey badger just like
I know Snoop Dogg did a bunch of like Animal Planet like double
I don't know if that one was like one of the like really old ones. You know, the same time the Shia LaBeouf video came.
actual cannibal
Shia
Shia.
surprise.
Oh yeah. Wait, he isn't dead. Shia surprise. There's a gun to your head.
Yeah.
And death in his eyes.
But wait, you're caught in a bear trap. Yeah, that's funny.
They actually added a bunch of lyrics to that after the. So there was the original animation. It was much shorter. I think it was like 2 minutes.
Really?
They added like another minute, which is where it's like, wait, he isn't dead. Shia surprise.
Yeah.
There are more lyrics here. And
Yeah.
death in his eyes.
I don't think I've seen that version of it.
They were the old one.
Yeah, the original one. I've only seen the
I mean, so
The theatrical that one.
the original one, I think, was just a Flash animation, which is also why it like suited it being such a weird song to write. Like, I really wonder
Well, who wrote it?
I can't remember. He sings it in the theater.
Oh, he's the one that's narrating?
Yeah. Which is like,
Nice.
you know, you gotta kind of wonder about the backstories of how they came up with the song.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you know, Shia LaBeouf, actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf. I was like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, you did hear he's in the woods eating people.
Yeah. Attacking people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that was like a real thing that someone like put in time to write. I thought it was just him being like, you know what'd be cool?
You
Hilarious.
Well, you thought Shia LaBeouf.
I really did.
No, I didn't.
Because I was like, you know what'd be funny?
I think his name's Rob Cantor.
Does he make other songs like that?
Uh-huh.
I don't watch others.
None that are as well known.
Yeah. That one was a YouTube hit.
Legendary fight with Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Normal Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Shia LaBeouf.
He was in like some pretty new serious movies though, like Peanut Butter Falcon. Have you seen that? It's pretty good. You know, that's the only one I can name, but I'm sure he's doing great stuff right now.
I mean, I miss him from like Even Stevens. I think where he went wrong was with the Transformers movies. So he did the first two.
Really?
Yeah.
People would say the opposite about Megan Fox.
She started in the Transformers movies and then fixed the rest of her career.
Yeah, and then, well, no, because then she was in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like the live action one. Like, why is there a live action one?
It's because a lot of the... I've been talking about this a lot recently, not on the podcast or anything, but just like with Disney and just everybody doing these reboots, a lot of it has to do with just maintaining copyrights.
Right, you said that the other day, but I still don't understand.
So when you know how there's
Cinderella, for example.
Yeah, so Cinderella is in the public domain. It's like an old enough story that anybody can kind of cite it. Like you can't copyright the Bible,
right? Because
it's in the public domain. Everybody technically, like, humanity has a right to it.
That makes sense.
And like Disney, like Walt Disney was from like 1940s, 1930s, making all these different animations. And I think in like the 80s or 90s, they actually made a law that became referred to as the Disney copyright law. Because even after Disney was dead, the Disney company wanted to maintain the copyright and the intellectual property rights to like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy. And so they extended it to like, I think like 50 or 80 years past the person's dying who created it.
Yeah.
The big problem is though that like Disney, with a lot of the different like the different stories that they use, like Mulan is a Chinese story.
Yeah.
Hunchback of Notre Dame, Cinderella, Snow White, all of these come from like various folklores that were all in the public domain.
Yeah.
But when Disney made movies with them, they became part of their intellectual property and they copyrighted that, which is really fucked up.
Well, but is it not so messed up though, because they created, I mean, technically copyrighted the original story, but they have created entirely different takes and like, for example, the original Mulan was completely not that, you know.
So they did make creative iterations on it, but like,
yeah,
with copyright law, if things are close enough, they can sue you. Is the problem?
They did use like the name. Cinderella is like a very
But so what I'm saying, like, if you were to do like a third party, like, oh, this is my Snow White,
they can't. They have to.
Well, you could argue it, you could debate it, but Disney just has such a large media empire at this point that it is problematic, if not impossible, to try to create an original thing.
Yeah.
Without stepping on their property, and so that's like a big problem recently, and that's why I think they're doing a lot of the reboots, not because they were always just so profitable.
Yeah,
I think it's more because they want to maintain their like whole
some like sneaky underlying.
I mean, that's Disney.
Yeah, you know, side note that's not related is that I heard that in California fireworks are illegal, so every day when Disney does a fireworks show, they just pay a fat fine.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if that's true. Sometimes they say things, you know, that I don't really know if they're true. But that's one that wouldn't surprise me, right?
Did you know that 80% of things that are said after "Did you know that" are not actually true.
Right. Well, who knows?
So community manager. What? So first, like you got into Mochi batch 1.
Yeah.
You were onboarded.
I wasn't the leader. I was just.
So Ian was in that.
Tyler was the batch guide.
Ian Gabe for most people.
Yes. Tyler Miller was the batch guide. He did all the he did the new batch orientation.
Do you think you're doing a better job?
What? Tyler did a great job. I actually do most of my things based on everything that Tyler did. So he is like everything that he originally even created, like with like the slide deck, what he says, you know, there's also the language. I think that's like one of the biggest things recently that I'm just like trying to understand, secretly being, no, I don't know if that's a secret or not, but I know. And that just like there's a voice, like specific voice, that is quite Mochi, with like the fact that it's game, like being like making goals stickier, you know, like different things.
Oh, you mean like just kind of terms of
the language. The lingo. That, I mean, I definitely for sure just like took from like what I heard Tyler say, and like in our conversations about like, well, what about this, you know, like we probably need like a game guide, you know, but like I couldn't do any of that stuff without like having that original things that he put in place. So it's honestly basically obviously changing, but mostly the same because we have to cover.
So kind of what are your responsibilities as far as you understand? Because you've just gotten the position more or less.
Yes.
What are you going to be kind of like in charge of? What are you going to be doing?
Well, technically, I haven't talked about that with Ian yet because it needs to be more official. This is but community manager, I think right as of right now, based on we had our.
What do you think you want to be doing as in the position?
Yeah. Well, really more connecting with the community itself, because I feel like we have a lot of like the technical pieces, and there are a lot of the things that happen like on the back end of Mochi, where we're working on a lot of different projects, but like no one really knows.
Nobody directly sees these. Like,
yes,
changes.
No one really directly sees them, but they do have like a really huge impact. But then it's like with that kind of infrastructure, we want to make sure that it's meeting, like we have that to meet the community where we're at, because ultimately, like I mean, not all these people work in crypto or have worked in crypto or anything, so it's just kind of like I think making the connections with like more individuals, like more constantly, you know, like I mean, honestly, mostly reaching out to individuals saying like, how has it been going for you? Like, is there anything that I can do for you? Like, it's more of that service aspect in addition to like obviously the huge events that we're doing way more of now, I think, in the coming.
So besides doing like those events, kind of what has been your interaction, I guess, with the different channels on Slack? What are the things that you're kind of like you follow the most?
Yes. So I actually I'm not super active like talking in them, but I really,
so you're a lurker.
I'm a lurker for sure, but also that's because I had this other full-time job you know, that like it's just all day during the day, and like community manager just wasn't in my capacity in any way, you know, but it was technically under my responsibilities in what I was doing, but I have really I lurk in music, even though it's like they post all the time, but I'm just like kind of embarrassed because like I go to some of these things, but I'm like not aware of all like the titles, or like I'm not really good with artists like names too, but like obviously a lot of the people are really involved, like there's like a common like sense of like music that is good in general, you know, like it doesn't like have to be like a specific genre, but everyone apparently is on the same page or seems like the same page on what music is good music. And like obviously, well,
that's why you got to be the counter agent. You can be like, this sucks, let me show you the music.
No, I will get it out. I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, like I enjoy the music, and I enjoy like dancing too. So that's like the common thing, is that it's not like you have to come from anywhere, blah blah blah, but you can just enjoy all this stuff and spend time with all the people. So I think like at least organizationally, like community manager is really kind of just doing like that more face to face, virtually and non-virtually communication. Making people feel welcome and like involved, you know. I think like more like involvement with people's like governance for decisions, like making decisions, like where should we go, like what should we do, what kind of things do you want to do or are you interested in, is just what we're needing more of, since we're like gaining 20 something people every batch, and that's twice a year. It's like more and more people have a lot in common, but just like through Donut is like the only way almost that like you can connect one-on-one.
I don't know what Donut is.
Right, but you can't say that because you just get me upset.
I don't know what Donut is.
So Donut obviously is you blah. It pairs you. I'm like, it's blah because you should.
Is it like Gather Town or something that you kind of use? But
yes, well, no, but so it's like literally Mochi Bot. It's another bot, but each week it pairs you with someone to meet for 15 minutes just to talk about kind of something what you do. Oh, well, you can. You cut that. I just don't know it. But so I really like see. I think the community manager role is like doing a little bit more of that, being able to connect people in that way.
So you're becoming the Donut Bot.
Not so much, because that just sounds very inefficient. It's just inefficient.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable, and like I don't want people to know me. It's not about me. It's about like people being able to know each other and like intermix teams. Because like honestly, I literally have been on the same team since batch 1.
What team is that?
I change the name every time because I'm the captain, but it's either fruit hat party fruit hat, or hat fruit party. I think that's all the variations of those words. I don't think it is math wise, but those are all the ones I've used. But so like that's like the basic examples. Like I've literally been on that team since the beginning.
So what kind of journeys do you do?
My first journey, I said I was gonna write a 1-month novel.
Yeah, so like when I asked you about this in like the bio thing, you put up a bunch of different things.
Well, I did, yeah.
Is there any kind of like common thing? So you had like write a 30-day novel. Quite ambitious, especially if you haven't done writing.
Right.
Right now you're doing Duolingo.
Yes. I did handstands.
Okay.
With my team.
Do you have any kind of like logic as to like why you pick what you pick with your journey?
So obviously initially you just don't know what you're doing on Mochi. Where like
the guidance is supposed to be that like you pick something that you want to work.
I think are just like over ambitious with our expectations of ourselves and accomplishing, that's like quote unquote. It's just really trying to make obviously a secure habit. And so ultimately like that goal transformed into writing a specific amount of time a day attached to whatever habit we already do, like waking up or brushing your teeth. Hopefully you wake up every day. That was crazy. But
I gotta wake up every 2 or 3 days.
But so like I think like
take a shower every 4.
Right. The logic with like my individual goal has just been doing something that like I already do. But just doing it more consistently. For example, like I do actually write a lot, but none of it's published because I'm just too scared to publish it.
What kind of things do you write?
Secret things. A secret thing is that I'm actually working on plans and schemes. So no, one of the things I'm like currently working on is this thing that's called "Don't Read My Journal When I'm Dead," because I just have a lot of secrets. And
like, don't look at my internet history after
that. Right. Yeah, exactly. But it's like, I just, like the writers are scheming and they scheme. And like, I think that from being a middle child where like, basically I just don't have really any say, I just kind of go with things. Just like the observer role is just very prominent in like my life of like just sitting by and like trying to see things that people don't see.
So like observing your observations is something that you think might be like, you don't want people to see?
Yes, because I think like some people would just be like, I think like very strong character, or I don't know if they're traits or characteristics. It's like, so there's like pride, like people are like super prideful in general. I'm saying that about myself too, and so like there are things that like are said that like people can be very defensive about, not particular individuals, necessarily.
I'm not accusing you.
No,
I'm not accusing
not particular individuals, but I'm just saying.
Some of us are really. I'm not saying
as a whole. Like I'm like the hope, like my gravestone. If I get buried, I don't know what happens after you die. It's not gonna stay in.
I prefer to be turned into a bullet. You can put ashes in a bullet and just have them.
Really?
You can defeat enemies past your death.
But it's like one enemy, because isn't it?
It's not in one bullet. You know how much the ashes are in an urn?
Oh, but you said a bullet. I don't know.
No.
You know, you can get your ashes made into a diamond. Sounds cursed, doesn't it? Sound cursed?
Sounds so fucking stupid. Diamonds are
Sounds
worthless.
cursed. Well, a gemstone, because it's obviously just like your.
You can't be made into like a sapphire or a topaz. You get pushed into like
That's true.
a clear carbon like useless
That's
thing.
true.
You
But
can,
it's a
like,
diamond. It turns to a diamond.
yes, but diamonds are stupid.
Yeah, that's true. But also cursed, which makes them, I think, a little bit more valuable. Imagine you go into like a pawn shop and they're like, diamond ring. And you're like, fucking diamond ring, you know? But then they're like, this one was 85 years old when she passed away, you know?
Oh, I'd
on the
love to
sidewalk.
mix in a bunch of cursed diamonds with like the De Beers
Yes.
diamond monopoly. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe like one in every 800,000.
Like all the crown jewels, you know, actually have a piece of the ashes. Just kidding. Imagine you spread that rumor around. I feel like everyone would believe it. You put that on the internet?
So because I do think that we would both generally go towards like tangents.
Oh.
I think
okay.
that is both like a similar inclination that we might have. What were
This is one.
Yeah, this is
We're talking about Mochi
talking about Mochi.
and community managing and journeys. And then you were saying what is the like motive behind making these journeys?
How did we get to putting people inside of diamonds?
I got really far, you know, from the beginning. So you can come up with the rest. Oh, my arm was like.
Oh, because we were talking about writing and like
Yes.
things that you write.
And how I don't publish them because I'm embarrassed. But then
Are they mostly like creative works, or are they like fiction, nonfiction?
so I like to think that if I were ever to write a book, it would be for sure fiction. Obviously fantasy, if anyone knows me.
What kind of fantasy? High fantasy? Are we talking like steampunk?
No, not steampunk.
It's funny. Most people I know are like, absolutely not steampunk ever.
Because people, I think, just do it and it's cringy and
Yeah, it is. It is very
and it's
cringy.
embarrassing, and I don't want.
The only like media thing that does steampunk well, I would say, is the Final Fantasy series,
Okay,
because they mix in a good amount of like vibrant colors and magic to like this otherwise
Yes.
rust and top hat.
well,
world.
yes, well, I think like the thing that they're all missing is magic. It's like you forget that this is a world that doesn't exist.
There's always magic, but the integration of it is like it doesn't feel alive.
Yeah.
It's always about the rust and the grinding of gears, and it's
Yeah.
never really kind of about like the injection of life inside of machinery.
Yes, they're all also.
And then
dystopian.
they always overuse crystals, and I fucking hate seeing crystals and a bunch of shit.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
Writing. Or fiction.
Yes, so it would be like fantasy, more along the lines of like fantastical creatures and like human hybrid things. For example, also very embarrassing is that I've been reading fantasy stories or books really with like half fae, half human people.
I don't know what the fuck a fae is.
Yes,
Is it like a
just
fairy?
imagine in your head, yes. Well, you don't have to say yes, but they're like obviously. Well, when we were creating our character thing,
Which is still a secret thing that we're going to be eventually talking about.
when we were talking about just an imaginary character that I would like to create, we're talking about how it just doesn't have to be the strongest person. They don't have to be the best at anything, you know. But it's like in these books. It's like somehow they come up with like all these different situations in which individuals would be the best at that, which I think I really like, where it's like that's just reality too, is like you call on different people for different tasks, you know,
So
with their different strengths.
Is this a specific series?
No, not really, not necessarily. But if I were to write something, going back to what we were talking about, I think it would be that's published to the public. It would be something of that sort, but in my writing that I normally do, it is not fantastical in any sort of way. It is more ideal, attempting, intellectual, anything. So don't read my journal when I'm dead, is what I say. Don't read my journal when I'm dead, because I have a lot of things to say, you know, but I feel like those are secrets of the world. Is it right?
Yeah, I'm like on and off doing a little bit of writing.
Yeah.
And my problem is that like all the things that really like draw me into like I want to create something are like these enormous stories. So
Yeah.
like I love like the epics.
Yes.
Like Iliad, Odyssey.
Yes.
Uh,
I think I'm actually lucky.
you don't read any manga or anything, do you?
No, but see, I think it's because it confuses me a little bit.
If you want to read a really good one that's really big, has amazing character writing and stuff.
Yeah.
One Piece.
I already sold because I freaking love playing it when we were younger. I already know, but remember?
Well, I remember having a One Piece game.
That was Tony Chopper.
For GameCube.
Every time. That's the only character I knew how to do things with. So.
He's an interesting character. He has he's got interesting writing to him. The problem is because of the way that he is very just like a cute character.
Yeah.
He's kind of like he's kind of just given these like cute roles. He's a doctor, but he doesn't have a good backstory.
He talks? Isn't he like a squirrel?
No, he's a reindeer.
Yes.
He's a reindeer.
He has like a hammer.
He's a reindeer that ate the human fruit.
Right.
Yeah.
Duh.
But yeah, One Piece is like it's a fantastic story, not just in like it's colorful, creative. There's a lot of like super cool powers and interesting characters. But the world, it constantly references back to itself. A lot of the character ties are answered, and like right now there's an arc that the story's ongoing. It's been going on for I think 15 years, and the guy wanted it to be a 5 year.
So I need to start at one.
And I started at one. I started rereading it. It is a really good reading.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend watching the anime because the anime is kind of bad.
Would you write like a manga type story?
I wouldn't draw it, but I would write it.
Yeah.
And I've kind of started it.
Yeah.
But I only have like rough ideas of different characters and like different narratives. But one thing that's awesome about One Piece, like right now they're doing a story that's related kind of to the founding of Japan.
Oh.
And like the location is actually called Wano, and Japan before it became Nihon was Wano Kuni. But I think that was the name that was given to it by the Khans who were ruling in China, and it was just like shithole country or something.
Yeah. Would you say, so like you know how manga is like? Would you say it's first of all a lot of dialogue? It's just dialogue basically, or is there a lot of narration?
Well, the appeal of manga is the artistry.
Okay.
Generally speaking.
But story-wise, plot-wise, like, is it a lot of like requiring like you to understand the context from your own like understanding of it, or does it really kind of lay it out like
they in most mangas that I've read, they create the world and you get to watch it. And,
I see.
Yeah, you don't need to know like a bunch of history and stuff.
Yeah.
There are some mangas that are based on history. Like there's this one that's constantly on hiatus. It's currently on hiatus, and I'm still waiting for it to not be on hiatus.
Why is it on hiatus?
I don't know.
Since you've said it 5 times.
It's been on, just like the author like puts it down for so long.
I see.
Period.
Yeah.
But the manga is based on the life of legendary samurai. Miyamoto Musashi, who was a historical figure.
Yeah.
He kind of like wrote the book on Bushido code, like swordsmanship.
Wow.
Total dickhead. But eventually, like in his later life, became more of a philosopher.
Okay.
He was expert samurai. Like one of the famous accounts of him was that like he was just like chilling once and he caught a fly by the wing with a pair of chopsticks without hurting it.
I think that I saw that movie and it's called Karate Kid.
Mr. Miyagi.
They do that in that movie. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a new one compared to that.
One with Jackie Chan in it, you mean?
Both?
Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith.
He's like drinking wine.
Yeah. If anybody's curious what we're drinking, and I don't think anybody ever is, it's a Piona Vishnya, which is drunken cherry in Ukraine.
Yes.
Which today I learned, Vishnya means cherry, but it's a specific sour kind of cherry. They have a different word for like the sweet cherries, and it's like seen to them as a different fruit.
Really?
Yeah, Kate, my wife, is Ukrainian. She compared it to like apples and pears. It's a completely different fruit. A sour cherry versus a sweet cherry.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they look the same?
Yeah, they look exactly the same. Actually, there's a bunch of cherry trees outside of our apartment. You can try them.
There were a lot of people buying cherries in Poland, like
The season.
several bags of them. Is this like the climate for it? Dry, hot, super hot, dry.
Here and
Yeah.
warm and now.
Yeah, perfect.
Tis the season.
They're really like, well, okay. So is this just like really like red wine with cherries?
No, it's wine made with cherry. It's wine made of cherries that are
Of
fermented.
cherries, okay.
That are fermented.
Because the cherries, particularly in it, are very bitter.
Really? I always thought they were sweet.
I feel like they're bitter. So yeah, like sour a little bit.
Oh.
I like them.
Also, just so you know, I don't know how far we're into this. We are 38 minutes. You know, it doesn't always have to just be me asking questions. I feel like I talk.
Well, we go on tangents, and then you're like,
Yeah.
"What? I can ask questions."
Yeah.
Okay. My first question is.
Okay, I said you can ask questions. I'm not saying come up with an extensive list.
Okay. You need to be very specific because like
Whatever, not shit.
everyone knows that I can just do like that. So within Mochi, particularly, what has been like your what particular project? I know you do like podcasts and then you do a lot of like data, honestly, analysis for me, at least you've done, and then you do for Ian. Like what kind of has been like really fun, or within journeys, and also what has been challenging and like not really something that you.
I like winning and risk. And
That's new, and that's good. Honestly, it's crazy.
doing the podcast is fun, challenging. I don't know. I am also very much a lurker. I did editing for the zine. That was fun. The problem was I was just kind of like, I did a lot of editing closer to the end of the life cycle of it.
What about like this world of like, I don't know if like you would say like
I think one of
into the crypto world or Mochi world in general.
One of the problems I have is that just like because I'm in Ukraine, I'm like a lot of the events that are going on. Like I don't meditate, but I can't be at the wall facers thing. I don't. I can't be at like the movie nights. When I do appear for things, and like I'm in the adventure club right now. They got a Minecraft server if anybody wants to play Minecraft. A lot of their sessions. Well, we did D&D. I'd have to wake up at like 3 a.m. 4 a.m. To play the character.
Yeah.
I created I was a redneck elf. His name was Raja Bear Sharknado.
Nice. Nice.
Raja Bear Sharknado.
Oh my
He was a
God.
bard.
Really?
Yeah, he was in love with his cousin.
I actually I recently have been wanting to learn about how to play it. I don't want to play it yet because I'm embarrassed. You know, I don't want to.
Oh, see, but then that's the thing.
But it's really hard, isn't it? Like,
No.
it's involved story-wise, storyline-wise.
It becomes involved.
Wise line.
It becomes involved.
Yeah.
But the thing, my understanding about it is that everybody who plays it wants other people to play it too, and they will.
Okay.
And in most cases, unless they're like trying to go on like a really hard journey, they're always very welcoming and trying to get other people to like learn and enjoy it.
Okay,
too.
cool. Because that's totally something that I might be like, because I actually have with games and stuff, like a really like addicted, like type of
A dick penis.
addictive. Like I'm quick to be addicted to things like that, you know, like games specifically, you know.
So you would say that you have an addictive personality.
That's what I'm trying to say, you know, but I don't want it to sound like my personality is addictive. It's like that I quickly will get addicted to things like that. Yeah. Like drugs. Just kidding. Yeah, but so no, I've been wanting to learn how to play at least secretly because like it's just like it's like a whole different world.
Sounds like you have a lot of like things that you don't feel secure about trying out.
Yes, I think that it's
Between
very
writing
difficult.
and trying the game or
We
whatever.
talked about that. Yeah.
You're nervous about singing?
Publicly, absolutely. Because I think too, like, I know we're not really supposed to talk about things like growing up, but like when you post something, you know.
Also, I hurt my.
From doing too much drugs.
Yeah, I was doing this. Fuck heroin users, what the fuck?
It's hard when like you've been discouraged, like not necessarily by like particular individuals, but like just by like the environment to be posting things where you think like, oh, I'm good, when you're like really like, no, you're not, like the environment like feels like it's saying like, no, you're not, so don't post things like that. But obviously now the internet is more like wide and vast and people post things all the time that are ridiculous. So maybe it's like
I think with that first worry about like, you know, don't post anything if you're not good at it. I think a lot of that still has to do with the fact that like any pursuit that you do, that you spend and dedicate time to, needs to have return.
Yes.
I think that's definitely like one of the, it's one of the reasons why you don't want, like, a lot of people don't feel comfortable publishing something that they write, and that discourages, thank you. It discourages people from writing in the first place.
Right.
Because, like, you know, I don't want to write unless I get published. I don't want to write unless people like it.
Yeah.
And like that, in many cases has like the monetary incentive to it. You don't want to be like wasting time. Time is money. All this.
Yeah.
Shit.
There was like in the beginning of Mochi, there was like this writing seminar thing, where like my camera wasn't on, but because like I was
in like the writing club or something.
I don't know if it was originally writing club, but I don't know. So, but like the advice, I like wrote in like, what do you do to get like over the hump of like
Writer's
being embarrassed, you know, being not shameless, but more confident with like, this is a work in progress, like please don't judge me, and this is a safe space, you know. Like, how do you get to that point where you like can just take the step and just put it out there, you know? Because like I just have this huge issue with drafts, like not that it has to be perfect, but just that like the story constantly changes in my mind, so I'm never like confident enough to put it out. And like the advice that I got from like that one session, I don't know, like not trying to judge anything or anyone from that session, but it was just like, you just do it, you get over it, you know. But I think like what's difficult is like once you're you've already like published a lot, you know, like say that you're experienced in like releasing your work, that like that thought of like going back to like the beginning where you like haven't done that yet before, like you kind of lose that sense of like that it is very scary. It's a very scary experience to do that. And so I don't think it was like the right advice that like for me in that moment, but I think that's like with a lot of new things that you're picking up, that there's like a block, that like we're not young where we were anymore, like really young where you're like, do it, you're really good at it, blah blah blah, and you just continue to do it until you get better and better. Like we're older now where like I need like that type of external encouragement to say, well,
I would say if that's kind of what you need, like especially if you're doing it kind of like for the fun, have somebody to share it with, have somebody to like, I think that's one of the nice things about like writing clubs, is that you get to share pieces that you're working on with each other and give like feedback, and you give, generally speaking, because other people will also be writing and kind of putting themselves out there. That's true. They're also going to be trying to be encouraging, helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's like it's like the reminder of like, hey, just listen, this is a safe space, you know. If you want to send something to me privately, you know, I'd be happy to read it. Like that type of like communication, I think, is better. But like until now, like recently, literally the only place I've been like publishing work or whatever is, so when I travel a lot. You know, I travel a lot. She
travels a lot.
I travel a lot. So anytime I go to like a place with like books or like a library, I like have things written that I've already written, like that are even pieces of my journal that I'll just like stick in a book. Not that anyone will find it, but just like I would love to find it, because it's like it's kind of stupid and mysterious and crazy. But like that's the only place like I've just been putting things. You know?
If only you wrote like bad romance novels.
Yeah, well, like, some of them are like look under this mountain, you know, like dumb things.
No, it was just like these smut books. And it's like you put it in, somebody opens like, oh, what's this? And then he took off her pants and began eating ass. And it's like,
you're like,
what the fuck?
No, but like honestly, so even like ridiculous things like that, like how freaking funny would it be like on like the thing where it says when the book is due to like read something like ridiculous and stupid like that? Like who doesn't love a little piece of that? But that's like the only place I've been publishing things, because it's anonymous.
I mean, yeah, you can have fun with like the way you put stuff out there too, if it makes you feel more comfortable. Like there's a lot of creators, writers now that are doing a lot of AR.
Yes, I'm not even in that world at all, but I'm so interested.
Like there's a lot of people who would do cryptography, or they would do like weird film things to put out information into the world that everybody, if they're interested enough, would connect the dots. So, you know, a lot of cases, nobody does. Yeah. But like in the middle of like, you know, creating an art piece like a drawing or putting out some music or something, you would be putting out little details for like this other story that you're really like interested in doing. Right.
That's actually something about the Mochi like world where we've opened up like this just entire different reality that people are trying to understand, that it's like extremely cryptic almost like too cryptic for like
What is too cryptic?
like this world of I don't know how to describe it, but it's like they're like non things, like few things, obviously, like blah blah blah. It's like this whole friend thing that all group will understand, and that's the point, is that it's a little bit it's very difficult. It's kind of difficult to understand and put dots together.
It nurtures like a local mythos.
It does, but I mean, if ultimately, eventually in the future, the goal is to be equitable and more inclusive of like, I mean, people understanding like random things about this world. I think that, I mean, it's fine, great for now that like it's very small. But if the world is constantly changing and we want to bring people along, it needs to change a little bit.
I don't know. So like for that, I would say that like writing eventually some not governing documents, but like a continued lore of like the Mochi world would be fun.
Right. Absolutely. Super fun. Yeah. With if like as we continue to create secure goals or think about like what our voice wants to be, then discovering that would be great, if we're all involved. If ultimately, eventually, if that's the goal, then yes, it's great and it works.
What has been kind of your experience with like the crypto world outside of Mochi? Like,
what? Do you think I have any experience outside?
I feel like you would have learned a bit.
I mean,
especially if you've talked with like Maggie. I think she did like the third or fourth podcast.
Well, I watch all the things, like all my friends who are just watching.
The Shifi, yeah.
Yeah, but like all my friends who are just like mid-20s, like watching and anything that has to do with crypto, they're just like taking it face value, and they're like, how much Dogecoin I bought, and I'm just like, here's your nugget for the day, Shut up, But so like within like the crypto world, I don't really know much more than our resources that we have at Mochi with the people, people wise, and like different resources that they pointed me to.
What about like the blockchain and like technology stuff?
I mean, I haven't I don't have that much money, so I don't like dabble in like too much stuff. I work on individual projects that Yeah,
there is definitely you kind of have to have already had your foot in the water.
Oh my gosh, but you want to know something so funny?
No.
It's really funny. It's like crypto is involved, so it's actually really funny. So I downloaded dating apps. Hilarious, right?
Wait, dating apps?
Yeah.
Plural?
So in America, Bumble, Hinge, and Tinder are
louder. I don't know.
Bumble, Hinge, and Tinder are the main dating apps, right? This is very recent. This is a very recent experience, right? And so this guy reached out to me and was like, do you want to be a sugar baby? Which you're just like, okay. And I promise it's related. It's like crypto related, right? And I was like, I downloaded these like literally with no good intention of like talking to anyone or meeting anyone. But I showed my roommate and he was like, you should say yes, just see where it goes. It's funny, I'm like, honestly, if anything, it's a good story that I'm not sharing with everyone at Mochi. Literally, he's messaging me on Instagram saying, hey, like, I'm 30, like 30s, early 30s, I think 32 or something. And he's like, do you want to be, what's your experience of being a sugar baby? I'm like, what do you have to offer, He's like, well, what do you do? And I was like, I work for a crypto social club. Isn't that funny that that's the first thing I said, even though I was working for school, like full-time, and I was working for Mochi part-time? And he was like, crypto, like, no way, that's how I like hit big originally, like blah, blah, blah. I know all this stuff about crypto. He's like naming off people that he like knows. But really like what happened obviously was that he like bought Bitcoin like a long time ago, and now he thinks that he can like hire young women to like not spend time with him, obviously, like weird shit. And I was like, I literally sent him back like just this video of me laughing in his face, and it has nothing to do with like me being knowledgeable about crypto or anything at all, but just that like this is like a small peek into the world, I think.
The crypto bros.
Of the crypto bros, yeah. Of like the crypto frat bros who think that they're so hot now because they hit big like this time during crypto. But that actually, like the hitting on girls thing, I think has given some guys some like confidence with hitting on girls.
Well, having money definitely does that. Yeah.
Having money, yes. But
additionally in Miami, I'm talking a lot, so you can just stop.
That's fine.
So in Miami, obviously we were at that thing, that we were there in the time of the Bitcoin conference. And these like random guys are showing me their projects. They're like, look what I'm working on, as if I have any
Look at my startup.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, as if I have like any clue what's going on, or like how to connect them to people, or like what even it is that they like are showing me on their phone. And I'm just like, cool, and I'm really good at running away. So I'm just like, okay, bye. But they're like, what's your Twitter? What's your Instagram? And I'm like, God, what is it with like this whole...
I wonder how much of that is also just Miami.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. These are freaking very people in backpacks, so I don't know.
If you compound crypto bros with Miami, I mean...
That's a bad combination overall. Yeah.
That vaguely reminds me of like my new favorite insults. Get out of here, you right swipe.
Oh my God. Wait, right is good, I think.
Left swipe, whatever. Get out of here, left swipe.
Who said that?
I saw it online.
Oh my God, that's so mean. That's so mean. Actually, the algorithm is pretty brutal, I learned. Like,
I had a friend in college who's like, his entire profile was just like, I'm in college.
Oh my gosh. No, that's sad. But I think like it's scary because like I think like those apps somehow like take the data of like how much people swipe on you, like what kind of pictures like are liked, and then maybe like I don't know, some like type of facial recognition type of thing where they will rate you or something. Because for sure they'll show like the like way more attractive people at first, and then they'll just show all the people that like are like less attractive. But you're like, how is that? You
ever play with it? Just like swipe yes on everybody?
Oh my God. Well, one of our sisters, I'm not going to reveal who, literally did that. She's going to see this too. That's funny. She better watch this.
Oh, nice.
She better watch it. Literally did that. And like here in Ukraine. Yeah. So I swiped right on everyone. And then oh my God, I had my Instagram on one of them because I'm just like, whatever. Like if you want to message me,
Okay.
Like you have to get, because I'm private. My Instagram's private. It's on the screen, but it's private. So, But
so don't even
all of these people that are like, I think I saw you in Lviv, and you have to cut that out because I almost revealed who it was. Our sister that had it open here was literally like, no, you did not. He said, I think I saw you, and she said, no, you did not. You did not. And I'm like, that is funny, because that's just like how the conversations go. They're not authentic, but they're trying to be. Because how do you date as an adult? I've talked to our other brother about that too. But you're married, so it's different. I don't know how people date as an adult. But it's funny when they slide into your DMs and say things about crypto, and you're like, whoop, and then flag. It's actually a flag. Don't.
Oh, you mean like a tag for like, oh, these people are into crypto?
No, it's like a red flag. Like they mention it, and you're like, I have this really bad problem of like laughing in people's faces.
Oh.
But it's because I'm like, you say something funny. Like I'm not laughing necessarily at you, but it is ultimately like a little bit, And they say like, yeah. That's how they talk in my head. All of them? Yeah.
I got the coins.
That's just like a red flag of like the conversation is over.
So would you say you generally have like a negative opinion of like the crypto space, crypto world?
No, it's really fun for me because I just like community manager wise gets really talk to people, which is like my jam. I love to just like talk to these people about like what they're interested in.
But retain nothing.
So I wouldn't say retain nothing. If you really asked me, like in conversation, there was like this, I swear that I don't just go on tangents, but there was like, there's this scene.
You live on the off-ramp.
There's this scene in Avengers Endgame where Black Widow. But Ant-Man's asking him like, do you know anything about like quantum physics? And she's like, enough for conversation. And I feel like that's just like who I am. A little bit. Like if you explain it to me, I will really put it in and like analyze it and like for the most part understand it, not to the point where I can practice it.
I think that's where I am with a lot of these podcasts.
Yes. No, exactly. And so it's like it's great that it's like a super high level, but I think a lot of like the
my major in college and community managing type of thing is like kind of like
What did you study in
trickle
college?
down. It's like not
What was the major called?
it was called managerial and organizational communication.
Nerd.
Yes, but it's really like taking things that like are otherwise difficult to understand, and kind of
Like Spanish.
sure, yes, like a translator, because like the translators don't necessarily say every single word that you said. You know what I mean? Like if you say when I say like, you know what I mean, like that's a very middle like phrase to say. Like, you know, they don't say those things, so it's just like the pieces that are important. It's saying it in a way that is like more easy to understand. That's how I feel about crypto. If that's what answer your question, I'm like trying to explain it to my friends that like know enough to be putting their money in it, which just stresses me out a little bit, and not really enough to listen to other people because they think that because it's like a big thing.
Oh yeah. When our dad visited with us, like I talked with him for like 2 hours trying to explain to him like it's not really just about the coins. It's not about just
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. But like all that they
But I've definitely kind of gotten to the point where like, you know how in like every friend group there's gonna be like that one guy who's talking a little bit too much about crypto. I think I've gotten to that point in most of our friend groups.
But that's a strong. I think that's a measurement of like how you've grown within this. Because like I kind of wish that I could do that. I don't know enough. To the point where people are literally like, can we sit down where you like go through all the apps that I need to download and like things I should invest in? And I'm like, I'm not certified for that.
What
Like,
you get? If I were to say get Coinbase, MetaMask, and like I don't know, just like
Near shout out.
Just like
Near.
it's near.
Near is this? It's new. Sorry, keep going. It's a new thing. Like similar.
Okay. And then just some password protector.
Yeah.
MetaMask password protector and like Coinbase or like CoinGecko or something.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if CoinGecko was.
Obviously, like as things continue to grow, it would be great to like be ahead of specific things. Like obviously, like
you want to
the world's
invest,
already
yes.
ahead. Yeah. I don't have currently enough to expand on that, you know. But I would like to be ahead. I mean, being in this world at all is like being ahead, like understanding that it's more expansive beyond the coin, but like investing your money in coins, like. This is the world itself.
To me, it's like the consciousness of like I'd say like the big thing to me with like crypto is that it's a change in like how the market works. Whereas traditionally it's like invest in like if you invested like $1,000 in Walmart in like the year 2000, you'd be a millionaire in 2008.
Yeah.
If you invested $1,000 in Amazon in 2005, you'd be a millionaire by 2007.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know.
Well, but like everything is entirely dependent on the decisions that the companies.
Yeah. But so like the consciousness on the part of the investor there is like, how much research did you do into this company, into these people, these individuals? And crypto is similar in that sense. Like in many cases, like people are seeing it as just like stocks. Like, am I getting a return for putting in money
at all? Yeah.
As opposed to am I building out like a meaningful technology within the space in this new thing that's not as understood and regulated by governments, but also it gives more access to more people.
Yeah.
So it's not just like investing in Walmart like from China.
Yeah.
You're investing in like a Walmart. I mean, Walmart's a bad example, but like investing in
it's a pretty good example.
But investing in a place that applies everywhere for everybody and will enable more people to get access and equal economic participation in this in the world.
Yeah. It's difficult because obviously as of right now it's like very unpredictable.
It's still pretty young.
Extremely young, but also randomly. You know, my like second internship ever in college was it was in an investment banking firm. It was really small, but my job was going through like utilizing this program to scan different companies, like multiple companies at one time, to see if they're flagged for specific things, like sending weapons to Syria, like like
the U.S. government.
No, exactly. And so it's like, I mean, ethical buying, all this like all these ideas that are just floating around in my head for like why I was like, I'm gonna take this internship, sure, you know. Is like literally my job every day is like seeing like whether or not like these companies make decisions to invest like their own profits into these very ethically controversial things, you know? I mean, like but that doesn't mean that we like tell the clients then like you should or shouldn't. It's like, hey, listen, they were flagged for these specific things, you know, like if you're for or against abortion, you know, like they like help with the manufacturing of these particular, and
they manufacture abortions.
Well, like that's like their decision, you know. It's like ultimately like we send you this thing, and we're like, or the people who are professionals out of
they just kind of you kind of give them like summaries about
yes.
like why like this is like you might make money, but also these are controversial things.
Yes, and like some like if you're watching the news, like some things might come up, you know, or like companies that we think are things that we think are so like some companies that are like greenwashing, like, you know, for the most part, sustainability, and they're dumping, you know, all this everything, you know, into the ocean. Like we're like, hey, listen, the relationship is like, listen, I don't know if you like want to, but here's the report. You decide whether or not you want to continue investing in them or not. But I mean, it's the opposite of crypto because like, first of all, you're like ultimately investing in this idea of like really.
Is it the opposite of crypto though? Why would that be the opposite? I
think because like the decisions that you make in investing in specific coins, sure, like in themselves, just for example, coins, like whether or not it appreciates or depreciates doesn't necessarily depend on the actions of specific individuals in power. Like Walmart, right? Like the head of Walmart he's obviously not making all these decisions himself, but is like making significant decisions that affects trickle down everyone and then ultimately their stakeholders. But like that doesn't happen within crypto because we don't have this central person in power that's like really like they could just be shit, you know, and then like all this stuff come up and then they cheat on their wife and like
it's partly true. Though like I think a recent example was like Sushi Swap.
Okay.
Of like where one they found like a bug in like their I don't think it was an algorithm, but like there's a bug in the program. They lost a bunch of money. The person who was the lead of the project left, and I think he took like $20 million.
Really interesting.
And yeah, it was a pretty big thing that happened recently because there have been a lot of what are they called? Like swap exchanges that have been coming out. It's like a financial instrument that it's very similar to the ones in.
Would that end?
Exactly the same in the financial market.
Yeah. Would that end in a lawsuit since technically it's not necessarily his individual responsibility?
It could, depending on how much he knew.
Yeah. Who
same thing with like
the information.
Yeah, same thing with like, you know, if you dump a bunch of stocks before you know, like news is gonna get out that
they're gonna track it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. Well, I guess we'll see as things go on. Because, I mean, obviously, like, the ideal is that, like, nobody is
in control. Or has that much singular influence.
Yes, on millions of people's lives.
Well, to be fair, like, I don't know how much money Elon Musk made a bunch of people saying Bitcoin. That's it. No, what was it? Bezos that said Dogecoin.
Dogecoin. Okay, but also it dropped a lot, I think, in that night because he was on SNL. And he was just the night
Bezos
he was on,
or
Elon Musk. He was on SNL and he like wasn't funny and so. But he was like, listen, like I literally am Elon Musk. Like, did you expect me to be different? And you're like, okay, I get it. But he said something like someone said something like shitting on Dogecoin and then it again. I don't know. I don't really know much about it particularly. I haven't.
What are some things that you're kind of like interested in going, like going either the rest of this year, in Mochi, in like things that you're interested in? Like I've got video games that I'm really looking forward to. What are things that you're kind of on your horizon?
Honestly, like there's a lot of new things going on for me. I think with the community manager situation, because. Of
we
course,
just finished batch 3's
batch 3, yeah.
First journey.
Speaking of, I need to definitely remind them that something's due today. But so it's like not only like new batches, but like the fact that I was working a full-time job, that's like it was like 8 hours hourly. So like 8 to 5 I'm working and like I'm doing things for Mochi during it, but it's kind of like here and there. I'm at least for like from now forward, I'm excited to just do that, you know, and be focused and just like finally be able to make real connections, like more real connections with people, because like honestly it just wasn't in my capacity. And I thought with leaving this past job, that like finding another job, like they wouldn't be in my capacity at all to be involved in Mochi, like aside from being a member. But so like obviously there's like events and things like to be planned more so to be inclusive of more people around the world. And like,
oh, if you want to sponsor our tickets, that'd be great.
me personally, I'm not just kidding, but no, that's like a thing, like a member, that would be a member perk, you know, like maybe like in the future when we start rolling out things that are, you know, like that, you know, but like those things I'm like really excited for, because I think too from the past meetings, like being able to meet people, finally like actually like meet everyone in Miami, and then Team Pomelo, like a lot of Team Pomelo that I just have never met in person, in Tulum, and like when we were in Zion like last fall, just meeting more people is just really fun to me, because it's like a real community. Not that this virtual community isn't real, but just that like you're able to make
it feels like another level of the connection.
Yes, you don't know someone's actual vibe until you've like stood in front of them and like said hello.
Until you've been appropriately catfished.
Yeah, because they could not say hello. They could say like, you know, F you, or like, what's up? And that like completely changes who you think, how you think about them. Before
you guys visited in Ukraine, like I was coaching Kate on like what to say to you guys when you first met you. Like, just start with a solid fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm Kate.
Yes, that's appropriate, honestly. But we were all just like coming in hot too when we came to Ukraine. We're like, because we like see all your messages, you know. So we're like scrolling through, and we're like, yeah, I'm excited to do this and this and this and this and this with Michael and Kate. And so obviously we came in hot, being like, blah, and like that's different when you're on like virtual constantly, you know. Sure. And like obviously we haven't seen you in like 2 years, 3 years, and so like that type of like even managing energy is just so different. And emotions come out and you just don't know. But like same with these people that like have been meeting or working on projects with each other, like over the internet constantly, like meeting them in person is just so different. And like especially when they're fun trips, intentionally fun planned things, it's just like a whole new thing.
What do you think is like the thing that sticks out to people of like when they first meet you?
Me?
Yeah. What is your like first revealed characteristic?
I think
I'm fucking hilarious.
I think that I have a lot of energy. Like but I can't help it, because I'm like, I think it's like trying to be like self-aware is that like I definitely try to overcompensate that I want them initially to like me. It's not like obviously people meet people and they're like, I want them to like me, but like I think that my high energy is like a lot of that, where I also want them to feel really welcome.
In terms of upbringing, so like again, we don't have to dwell too long on it all. So you are like of the Tumlos family, the ultimate middle child.
Oh yeah, look, middle, ha. I'm the middle son, but ha.
You are the absolute middle child. And from what I remember, was that like you before like high school were much like quieter, and like you were far less of like the same like the current bombastic person that you are now.
Oh, absolutely. I would 100%.
Do you think that has something to do with like the wanting people to like you more? Do you think that was like a...
So it like, I think like the very first thing that like when people say, because you're not the first person to say that to me, like people knew me as like a pretty not quiet person.
Bombastic is a pretty common word.
I think that like that's like where the observer role was really like more full flex up till like 8th grade. But so when we got to high school, like Rachel would invite me to things. She's here. She would invite me to things, but she would have to like be part of it or help organize it. So she would literally just leave me, like literally leave me, like be like, you're good, and just like walk away. And like, so I would have to make friends. Like there's no other option, or I'd just be like sitting there like super uncomfortable, which I was constantly uncomfortable. And I was like, I even tell Ian, our brother, that like meeting like a ton of people like still makes me extremely like uncomfortable and nervous. But like since we didn't know anyone like in high school, and like they knew you and Rachel, who were like just completely different from me, like I mean from each other, but also like extremely me, but I have pieces of you that they all see, like a lot of, and I don't know if you actually know that, but a lot of them are like, blah, Michael. And I'm like, yes. So there's all these things. There are all these things that they like see both of you in me, and so I had to just like make this thing that, or like ultimately just make friends, or like make both of you not like proud, but just like, I'm like, okay, well, they know me as like Rachel and Michael, like mixed as one, but they don't know anything about me. And so like I think the high energy just like kind of put like the spotlight on like of like, oh, Myra's kind of her own this, like Michael and Rachel aren't necessarily that, and also like it kind of like relieves the stress.
Oh, don't tell them I'm Michael, first of all.
Robin.
Don't make me change the name of the podcast. I like
Sorry, Robin. I actually really liked the name Robin growing up because you were always like the superhero. But so
sidekick.
Yeah, I know about the superhero because like I don't know. I would be the one. I would literally be the one like covered in pillows, and you would spar, you know. But like it's not us sparring. It's just you like hitting me. And I'm like, yeah, it hurts, and you add another pillow. But no, it's like I think it's like me trying to create this new thing.
So it's like a finding yourself.
It was definitely a finding myself thing. Because
you think it's more for like friends, or was it a teacher thing? Like a.
It also helped in classes because then like I would either like underachieve or like but seem like I'm overachieving. Like somehow I would like totally bomb quizzes but be selected to like lead the next study groups. Like how's that possible? I'm not sure. But so
I don't think I ever did study groups. No.
We had like that thing where like you choose like a king and then like their knights and then like the peasants or whatever.
Oh,
in world history.
I didn't get to be in world history.
Oh, really?
Until the second semester.
Really?
Because I was put in the dumb class.
Oh no, on accident. I was put in the honors math class on accident.
Yeah.
Did not work out well for me. But so no, that's like an example where I just like bombed something. But the teacher is always like, Myra participates and she talks to me a lot, or or she makes eye contact. You know, my giant eyes.
You give the aura of leadership as opposed to like
the like production of right answers.
To be fair, that is essentially what leadership is. You delegate getting the right answer to the people who you work with. You just gotta have the energy and the
being sourceful, or like knowing. I like knew the teams and I knew everyone in my classes like really well enough to be able to like
pick people who
like help their strengths come to the surface.
That's
because
what leadership is.
Yeah, well, that's great then because that's what I went to school for. Good thing I went to school for the right thing. But yeah, I think definitely in classes too, like that type of personality, because I didn't have any of you like you or Rachel or Ian to like make decisions for me essentially. And I'm not like I'm not an oldest type. Like we're not, you know what I mean? We're like not oldest type of like decision making where we're like we feel responsible for like what happens to like the younger siblings or like that. So I mean that piece of like, oh, I can be myself and like have fun. And I'm not necessarily responsible for like if it's like, for like someone else. It's so just like,
do you kind of feel like you've had that that's kind of taking you through college and like is also part of how you're still meeting people in Mochi?
I think absolutely. It was a turning point that was necessary, but I didn't realize how much it would impact everything that I do. I mean, it went into like why I chose like the first school I went to, and then like the school I transferred to, and eventually was very social, or like the places that I feel like I grew in were the places that I felt like I could connect with most people in. And that I just think that also as humans we don't get that enough, or we think that if we can't find it or we don't find it, we just like settle for like what's going on. But like I have found it, like really good communities, and I just feel like everyone should experience that. And it's not even like particular niches of people. Like I wouldn't say that I'm a very particular or picky person when it comes to meeting people. But and I mean it just would go to show that like I mean the inclusivity piece is like I think pretty important. But I didn't know that at all, especially up to 8th grade, because I was like so
really like the inclusivity is like your big focus as like community manager, like the thing that you kind of really want to like champion for in your position.
Yeah. And like I think like saying that it's inclusivity is a little bit like it's not that it's too deep. It's like it is, yes, essentially that. However, it's
Hashtag too deep.
too deep. But really it's just that there are a lot of really great people who should meet each other because they're all working on like really cool things mutually and they're good people. I mean, I'm not trying to say that like, well, they're bad people, you know, like outside.
There are some of you that are bad.
There's some people in the world
I remember
bad.
with Ariana, like the mantra that we kept like coming back to after like the first podcast is like, the world is bad.
No, yeah, and that's not true, right? And that's like obviously it's like pretty exclusive or like it's selective. Mochi's like has been it's friends of friends right now, the way that we select people, but it's just really to like because there's no tolerance for hate, you know, like in this group there's no tolerance for like that type of judgment.
We should test that out. Just try hating on somebody.
Try hating on somebody. Interesting proposition. No. But like that atmosphere is just in general like we don't want that type of bad
spirit
energy blood coming into like events when we're all just trying to be ourselves. Like how often do we put ourselves out there and then get rejected, you know? Probably more often.
Who's been in your team?
My team, so our sister Rachel Tumlos, Jess Krotz, and Whaley was a new addition.
Jess Krotz, did she write one of the pieces for the zine?
Yes, she drew the one.
Yeah, she did the art.
Yeah.
No, wait.
Yeah, she did art.
Yeah, okay. And then Whaley, I think he's in Adventure Club.
He is the club head for Inquiry Club as well.
It's Inquiry Club.
Inquiry Club is where you, at least in the channel itself, you're posting every day whether or not you meditate. And then you get specific points, and then like the points lead to a specific amount, and then they will donate it to an organization that they all agree on. You know, it's pretty cool. And then I don't know if they're doing that now. I know that they did that recently. And then also they do bi-weekly, I believe, or bi-monthly, because bi-weekly is twice a week, right? Bi-monthly is twice a month.
I have no idea.
I know. I think it's both, but they meet on virtually to do a sit together.
Just like a meditative sit.
Yeah, because I think like the whole idea of it is like, I mean, doing it in community, because like that's why they post blah 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 to support each other,
hang around each other.
Yeah, even though they don't say anything.
Yeah, well they repeat the same lyrics. So,
mantras.
Yeah.
Yes. Indeed.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually learned. So there is that. Is it a channel? Wall Facers?
So it was Wall Facers. It's now Inquiry Club.
Okay.
Inquiry Club.
I just learned the context of that. I think. The second book of the Three Body Problem.
Oh.
Position Liu.
Yes.
Yeah. There's I'm almost halfway through. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, wall facers are a thing.
Yes. The idea of wall facers themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
One of them kills himself. Not gonna spoil anything.
Wow.
Kind of makes me want to make a wall breakers group just to fuck with shit.
Honestly, I feel like people would, because a lot of people have read Three Body Problem.
Have you?
I read it for school. Can't say that I remember a lot of it.
The
I
first
read
one?
a lot of random books for school. Yeah.
Fantastic sci-fi book. The actual.
Wait, they read that in They also read it in reading club.
I'm not in the reading club. I've just started learning to read.
Nice.
And as a literature major, yeah, it's been quite revelatory.
I remember you told me that you were an English major when you were an English major. That you're like, I don't read books, or like I hate Shakespeare. And I was like, okay, I hate Shakespeare, so I can't ever be a writing major. You know?
That's not true.
Yeah, I know that. I know that's not true now. Anyone can be writing. Like any person can be any major. Let's be honest.
But a writing major.
What made you learn how to read?
One of my journeys was to read. I think so. I wanted to learn how to speed read, and I've kind of gotten away from that. I've just been casual reading, but speed reading specifically because it's a skill that you can just learn.
I did that for school a lot. College, particularly.
It like helps you. So I think my problem with the speed reading thus far has been that like the stories that I've been reading are a little bit too interesting, and I don't really want to speed read through them.
Nice. That's good.
but I like over the last like so many years, the only things I've been reading have really been like manga and then just like some news articles. And just like reading text, I could never really get through anything. But the first thing I actually managed to get all the way through was a book by Xiaowei.
Oh yes. Blockchain Chicken Farm.
Blockchain Chicken Farm. And then I finished Three Body Problem. I'm working on Dark Forest, the second one. And I'm also reading what's it called? Snow Crash.
Okay, I haven't read that one.
It's about a pizza delivery guy who's also a hacker.
Nice.
His name is Hero Protagonist.
What there was like
It's pretty aesthetic.
I feel like there was a movie that just came out with that they just released that the main character's name is a protagonist.
I know one of the reasons why a lot of people are picking up Three Body Problem now is that I think there's going to be a Netflix series that's going to be coming out.
Yeah.
Which should be interesting. I think one thing that was really that still is kind of like an ongoing thing I'm trying to get over. The fact that all the main characters have Chinese names.
Oh.
And that's just not something I'm used to.
Yeah.
Because everything I've read has been like Greek epics. And,
do you look up how to pronounce them?
No, I know how to read pinyin.
Okay.
So I spent 3 years in China.
Right. That's true. I forgot. Most of the things that I used to read were also Greek mythology type of stories. They're just so entertaining and brutal.
What's your favorite book?
Ever? Series?
Book, author, series?
So the first book series that ever got me hooked on reading books, which I read like a lot of books when in elementary school and like still kind of read a lot of books, is a Percy Jackson series. Have you heard of it?
That's the one with like they all have like Greek god powers or something, right?
They're all half human, but there are like 12. But I read them when I was 12, so it was like epic, you know. And they go on all these adventures trying to like satiate the anger of like both like all these different gods, you know, because like they're in charge, they're in control. But then also like this other demigod wants to overthrow the gods because they've been in power too long by like resurrecting one of the titans. You didn't ask, you know, about the plot, but I'm saying it. But no, it definitely like still like enters my mind often.
How long is the series?
It's 5 books. They're really short. I literally read all 5 of them in like 6th grade when I was in like a week.
Oh wow.
That was the peak.
The
beginning of month.
The reading I always did, so it was for like the accelerated reader program.
Yes, me too.
Where you get points for like you had to answer a bunch of comprehension questions. It was only like 5 or 10 depending on how many points the book was worth.
Yes.
The ones I always went were the Captain Underpants books.
Yes, well those are great.
They had those pages where you had to flip them, and they're like slapping
butts. Yeah. I used to actually take tests for people for money. That's the level of nerd that I was. Nice. They'd give me $5 and I'd take their test for the semester.
That's a good way of making money.
Yeah. You know that Captain Underpants now, so there are a lot of parents that think it's inappropriate. So they came up with a new series called Dog Man and Cat Kid.
Dog Man.
Yeah.
Kid.
But Captain Underpants is a bald diaper man, so it's not appropriate.
That was the cartoon Cat Dog. They need to make a new one called Man Kid.
Man Bear Pig.
No, Man Kid.
Man Kid. Yeah. That sounds terrible.
Man Kid.
That sounds like a lot of people's reality.
I had a friend.
It's terrible.
I still have a friend. You know Brian.
Yes.
One of his monikers that he would use for a lot of online games is Person Lad, who I imagine is like the best sidekick. It's me, Person Lad.
Person Lad.
Come, Person Lad.
Lad? Lad is a good word.
Person Lad, we must go.
Oh my gosh.
That's so. We're off.
I saw him recently, and he didn't even recognize us because we all grew up.
That wasn't recently. That was like a couple of months ago. He mentioned it to me too.
Yeah, that was the last year, which means it was recently because time went like really fast. Like now.
I think time slowed down a decent amount for me. I think.
Really?
This past year, yeah.
Really?
I mean, I don't know. The 2020 it was just like so much like. Let's just get to November without blowing up the U.S.
Right.
Let's elect somebody, and they almost still blew up the U.S.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it was like chasing specific things, you know. And like, when's the next thing? When's the next thing?
And you know how like every year you start out the year struggling to remember to change the year for all like the dates to like to the current year. I had no issue with that this year.
Yeah.
I was so happy to
Only
like.
one.
I was so happy to be putting that one.
Yeah.
For the second two.
Alyssa May, our other sister, wrote on her caption for when she turned 21. She turned 21 in 2020. And her caption for her like post was like, 2020 has been like such a crappy year that I made the executive decision to turn 21. I'm like, that is just how it is right now.
That's how it be. Sometimes how it do.
That is how it is. That is how it is. That's that on that. That's that.
Word.
Yep. Well,
TV shows.
TV shows recently,
No.
in general, that are good.
No.
In general,
No.
TV shows. I just started rewatching Game of Thrones.
Ooh.
I know. I don't think I'm gonna do it anymore.
Have you watched all of it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, because our school, my freshman year, gave us all HBO Max for free, and I was like, and that was when, in the peak of like everything coming, like all the episodes nearing an end.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, I can't be irrelevant.
Oh.
So I watched all of it, and it was
I think I managed to avoid it by not wanting to talk with any of the people who were really interested in it.
yeah, that helps too.
Except for my friend Derek. He's the other person on my team. Perfect reporting score. Never gotten a slash. I've gotten slashed
Nice.
twice or once.
That's really good. I get
But yeah, we got one of the higher reporting
ratio.
team scores. Yeah,
That's
but that's only because there's two of us.
nice.
But yeah, he loved the Game of Thrones series. He's like read all the books multiple
I
times.
have not read the books. They're so long. They're so long. Like
Why everybody's
you
worried he's gonna die?
will not catch me reading a book that long unless it's on my Kindle where it's accidentally that long. Like I have read like 1,500 word book or page books on accident because like you just flip and flip and flip and flip and flip and then you see it in person and you're like, did I read that? Like when did I read that? But the Game of Thrones books particularly are like so small text and so large. Like I don't know.
I think I've undercompensated in reading for like most of my life because I read the Bible as like a teenager.
You read it every day too.
Yeah, I read the entire thing, and I think for the rest of my life I've
Yes,
compensated for that by not reading.
that's true, and that is fine.
I think it tracks properly.
It's very small text too, and you had like a big version.
Yeah, and there were like four. There were like
Four, yes.
per page. There were
Gosh.
4 columns with annotations.
You're literally always reading. I'm like, what is he reading that's new in there? Honestly, well,
Yeah.
I learned biblical Greek in college, so
What?
now I can read Greek. Yeah, it was more like a history class. So interesting. How like in language itself, like if you have a specific word that has a particular root and ending, you say it like a different one. It could say a whole phrase, mean something completely different than like the one the way that's like right next to it.
Sounds like the Chinese way of like you can. I think this one guy like wrote a book. It was either a book or like an article.
Yeah.
Using only like one character, but just changing all of the different, just changing the tones, and it actually came out as a coherent sentence.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But these what are they called? There are like specific like writing projects that like are limit. They willingly limit themselves. This is one really famous one. It's not like Odysseus. It's something like related to like Odysseus or something. But he wrote the entire book. It's like a short novel without the letter E. So he used no words with the letter E in it.
Like the words themselves, he didn't include the letter E?
No. So he didn't use any word that has the letter E in it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you do that?
Very carefully.
Yeah.
Spend a lot of time. You have a coherent story, and just you spend a lot of time next to a dictionary or a thesaurus.
Oh my gosh. Sounds terrible.
Dictionaries don't have the letter E, you know?
I,
They do if you have
oh
multiple
my
dictionaries.
gosh, I just got slashed for my team.
For your actual Mochi team?
Yeah. How embarrassing.
Oof. Live on podcast.
I am so embarrassed. I need to text Rachel and say, I am so sorry. I will give you $20.
What are you bonded at? If you don't mind asking. And you don't mind telling from?
I will pay you each $10.
Oof.
Yeah.
Community manager, ladies and gentlemen.
I didn't realize that it was already 6 o'clock. We've been talking for a while. I was planning on reporting after.
Woof. Well, we're actually at an hour and a half. Anything you're working on? Anything you're interested in, kind of like getting out there? You got an Instagram. You're gonna be You're gonna be interacting with more people on Mochi in the coming months, I imagine.
If there is anything, you'll see it. You know, because it's in either in the works, because I'm afraid to release it, or you'll see it anyways, and I'll see you in person hopefully.
Cool. Thanks everybody for listening. Mehmet, thanks. Myra, Mehmet, thank you for being
Michael, Robin, whatever.
Thank you for being my guest. Thank you for being the first in-person guest for the R Mochi Podcast.
Don't spill if you're in person.
Don't fucking spill my goddamn set.
Don't spill.
Just gotta clean it up right after this. All right.
Bye.
Signing out.